History, a premier and paramount priority for progress of a people, arguably the single most important cultural property. It is the great unifier of all societies, from classical to contemporary. It is the shining beacon that restores vision to the blind. It is imperative that we create a unified effort to learn from it, that we may emulate its successes and prevent repeating its mistakes. For without history, we are without purpose. We are without identity. Welcome to the gray area, where we examine history in hindsight. January 26th, 1784. In a letter to his daughter, Benjamin Franklin expressed his displeasure over the eagle being used as the symbol for America. The symbol he chose was the turkey. 1802. The U.S. Congress passed an act calling for a library to be established within the U.S. Capitol. Thus, the Library of Congress was formed. 1837. Michigan becomes the 26th state to join the United States. 1861. Louisiana succeeds from the Union. 1870. The state of Virginia rejoins the Union. 1905. The Cullinan Diamond at 3,106 3/4 carats was found by Captain Wells at the premier mine near Pretoria, South Africa. 1911. Inventor Glenn H. Curtiss flew the first successful seaplane. It was a tremendous feat of aeronautical aviation. 1934. The Apollo Theater opens in New York City. 1961. President John F. Kennedy appointed Dr. Janet G. Travel as the first woman to be the personal physician to the president. 1992. Russian President Boris Yeltsin announced that Russia would no longer target U.S. cities with their nuclear weapons arsenal. 1999. Saddam Hussein vowed revenge against the United States in response to an airstrike that killed civilians. 2009. The Icelandic government and banking system collapsed, forcing then Prime Minister Geir Hardy to resign. And just today, 2020, America loses yet again another legend, world-renowned basketball star Kobe Bryant, who died in a helicopter crash while flying over Calabasas. His eldest daughter also died in the crash as she was with him. But rewinding all the way back to 1892, Bessie Coleman was the first female African-American pilot. She was born this day in 1892, January 26th, and was the 10th of 13 children born to George and Susan Coleman in Atlanta, Texas. At the age of 23, she moved to Chicago to live with her brother, where she worked as a manicurist. It was during this time that she developed an interest in flying after hearing stories about World War I pilots. She wanted to train as a pilot herself, but because of the racial barriers, she did not manage to find a trainer or get admitted into any aviation schools. Some of her friends encouraged her and even financially supported her with their own money for her to move to Paris. Before moving, she began taking French language class at the Berlitz School in Chicago, and shortly after moved to Paris with the financial assistance of her community. In November of 1920, where she got accepted at an aviation school. While training, she flew in a Newport Type 8-2 biplane. She earned her aviation license June 15, 1921, to become the first African American woman to earn an international aviation license. In 1923, she had an unfortunate accident during a flight in Los Angeles where her plane crashed and she broke her leg as well as 3 of her ribs. She was offered a role in a film known as Shadow and Sunshine, financed by the African American Seminole Film Producing Company. She accepted the role hoping to earn enough money to start her own flying school. However, she was not happy with the role that she was offered, as it required her to be in torn and tattered clothing in what she deemed as a socially, racially degrading role. She still wanted to open her own flight school, but unfortunately she was in a fatal airplane crash in the spring of 1926. Bessie Coleman was 34 years old at the time of her death, and since her death, she has been honored and renowned extensively with several libraries, airports, and even scholarships that have been named in her honor. And if you are Black in America, you owe Bessie Coleman a tremendous debt of gratitude, because the mark that she left on history and with her tremendous vision allowed children like us who grew up reading about her the ability to dream and aim for the sky. You see, history, much like time, waits for no man. It is ultimately up to us to decide whether we choose to make it or be the reason we repeat it. However, no matter what side of it that you stand on, you can only learn from it by looking at history in hindsight.